Oke, halo semua, balik lagi di channel aku yang short. Oke, kali ini aku mainin game Planet Zoo dari Steam ya. Pung lagi diskon nih, cuma ya masih 300 ribuan. Ah, sebenarnya sudah cari-cari game referensi sim building kayak bangun-bangun apa gitu. Cuma aku beli ini game juga nanti biar bisa dimainin sama anak aku. Kelihatan tua banget ya. Petalesan aja nih. Beli game buat mainin anak ya, tapi yang main bapaknya nih. Jadi ini gameplaynya aku masih inget itu waktu tahun berapa ya main Zoo Tycoon, cuma kayak masih SMP aku. Dan juga karena rumahku dekat dengan kebun binatang sudah jadi ingat masa-masa kecil. Cuma kali ini kondisi kebun binatangnya ya memprihatinkan sih, apalagi pandemi kayak gini nggak ada pengunjung, sampai pihak kebun binatang ngeluarin itu jual tiket 20.000, nanti bisa dipakai sampai akhir tahun kalau nggak salah, jadi terserah mau kapan gitu ya, karena sudah nggak sanggup untuk ngasih makan hewan-hewan di sana ya. Itu sih kondisinya guys. Oke, langsung di game kan, ini kayak terlalu melo gitu. Oke, ya aku nempatin avatarnya di Indonesia, temen Jawa Tengah sih. Oke, ya ini DLC-nya. Aku beli yang deluxe pack dari enggak, itu namanya bukan yang sama Arctic sama Amerika Pack ya. Aku nggak beli itu karena masih mahal banget, gak ada pemasukan. Jadi nggak beli yang mahal-mahal dulu. Oke, jadi ini karir baru nyobain gini pertama kali ini sih ya, lihat-lihat reviewnya di YouTube kayaknya asik gitu. Jadi langsung aja ini ya, kita karirnya. Oh ini karir ya, clean house start you. Oke, aku cepetin. Nah, ini penampakannya kayak real banget nih. Nggak kayak sutikan zaman dulu. Keren.
Sorry about that. I
Ini
have a habit of
eksklusif
slipping
cuma
back
buat
into the
PC
Franco
sih.
language.
Aku
It's
ada
good to
Mac
finally
lebih
meet
enak
you in person.
kayak Mac
I'm
sih
Bernard, although I insist you call me Bernie. The only
buat
person who calls me Bernard is
record-recordnya.
my wife. And even then, only when I've tracked elephant dung into the carpets.
Beruang.
As you know, I own several zoos, but I always like to show people the
Gambarnya
ropes
asik
here
banget
at
nih.
my home. This is the first zoo I ever opened,
Wah.
and a source of great pride for me. And prides, thanks to a lion breeding program we ran in the 80s. But we're in the middle of a big renovation, and that's where you come in. Sadly, our old contractor had to retire after developing a fur allergy. Poor devil kept sneezing his dentures into the lion habitat. So, it's up to you to finish everything off. Don't worry, though. I'm not completely throwing you in at the deep end. My head keeper, Nancy Jones, will be lending a helping hand. Oh, she's a hard worker, and she'll expect you to be too. But I'm sure you'll get along like a house on fire, or even better, one that isn't on fire. Less shouting that way.
Hello there. From that rosy, fresh face of yours, I'm guessing you're Bernie's new hire. Good. Now, I hope you're ready to ditch your diploma because we're about to get really hands-on. But before we begin the real work, how about we familiarize you with the zoo by learning how to fly around it and visiting some of our beautiful animals? We'll start by popping over and having a look-see at the grizzly bears in their habitat.
Oke, kali ini suruh ke lokasi habitat beruang si grizzly bear.
Did you know that grizzly bears, also known as Ursus arctos horribilis, can hibernate for up to 7 months a year? Oh, but then again, given the chance, I think a lot of people would do that too.
Kamera sinematiknya ini.
Select one of the bears and you'll bring up its information panel.
Keren ya gambarnya.
See now, this is a fantastic way to get a close look at your animals. You can also get this view of an animal by simply double-clicking on it.
Oh, double click ini.
Okay, when you're ready, let's pop over to the other side of the zoo and take a look at the lions. I've marked their location for you to find.
Oke, ke habitat lion. Ini semua tinggal di scroll gitu. Tombol-tombolnya masih belum terbiasa sih. Klik kanan buat panning, klik middle klik buat rotate.
Panthera Leo Leo, all the West African lion to you and me. Lions are the most social of the big cats, and there can be as many as 40 lions in a pride, although prides of that size are pretty rare. As Bernie would say, those lions are awesome, which is precisely why I handle the training instead these days. Anyway, how about we get started on those objectives? Come on, let's head over to an empty habitat and see what needs doing there.
Oke, di habitat empty habitat. Jadi ini tutorialnya tiap ada suruh apa gitu, goalnya ada ini bordernya, ada biru-birunya.
As you can see, it's a lovely space for animals, but it's missing a certain something. Well, two somethings. Warthogs. So I'd like you to adopt a pair of them. To adopt animals, we need to open the animal market, which is in the animal trading section.
Animal trading.
There we are, a pair of perfectly splendid warthogs for our zoo. Just click on them and select Adopt from the side menu. Normally the animal exchange would be full of animals, but I've emptied out the market while you learn how it works. The last thing I need is you accidentally ordering a dozen elephants.
Adopt, send issue.
When you adopt an animal, it's automatically placed in the trade center, where they're held until you're ready to move them into their habitat, which, as it happens, you are. So how about you move them into their new home?
Okay.
When you ask for an animal to be moved into a habitat, your caretakers will go to the trade center, collect your animal, and deliver them to your selected habitat. I've marked the trade center's location, so let's go and watch the caretakers in action.
Nah, ini warthognya di bawah nih guys. Warthog. Babi hutan tapi. Shoot. Oke. Kalian bisa klik di keyboard kanan kiri gitu, atas bawah buat panning juga. Nggak tahu aku kok agak macet-macet juga. Aku record pakai OBS ini. Animal Trade Center.
Well, as you can see, those caretakers don't hang about. They'll move those animals to their destination as fast as possible. Of course, normally we'd have to place the animals into quarantine before moving them into a habitat, but I am assured by a person of good standing that these warthogs are in the very rudest of health. Right, let's get the warthog's habitat finished up so we can keep them nice and happy. You see, each animal in the zoo has an overall welfare statistic, basically how happy they are. And that overall welfare statistic is itself comprised of 4 different areas:
Jadi tiap
nutrition, social
hewan
health, habitat,
ada
and
ini
enrichment.
habitatnya dari tempat asalnya gitu. Pertama-tama
Luckily,
kayaknya
if you select
harus
an animal,
kasih
you'll bring up their animal welfare
makan.
information panel, which we saw earlier, where you can see how they're doing. That way, you'll know exactly what areas need to be addressed. Don't worry if that's a lot to remember. You can always check the Zoopedia for more
Ini
information.
tutorial nggak bisa muncul semua barangnya, harus nunggu nih. Nancy Jones
Let's start
banyak
by making
bicara.
sure we're taking care of the warthog's nutrition welfare. To do this, we'll need to place a food station and a drinking station. Now, each animal requires a different type of feeding station. And for the warthogs, it's a small feeding trough. So let's add one of those and a water bowl.
Okay.
Animals also require stimulation to keep them happy. Let's
toy.
add a lovely mud bath for the warthogs to
Mud
roll
bath.
around in. That bath will count towards their enrichment welfare, specifically their toy enrichment welfare.
Okay, sudah.
Oh, nice work. You've got a knack for this, I see. Now, our contractor had to leave in a hurry, so this place is in a pharaoh state. Unfinished thingamajigs and whatsits all over the shop. But the first thing we need to finish is the ostrich habitat. It's over near the hippos.
Ini ostrich habitat. Ini belum selesai.
Oh,
Jadi
before we actually
kita
start building
bikin,
our ostrich habitat, let's pause the
barrier-nya,
game. Just
jadi
click the pause
temboknya
button
kita
in the bottom right corner.
kasih ini di barrier.
That's more like it. A quick break. Sometimes it's a good idea to pause the game whilst you're doing something which requires your concentration, because it'll stop the zoo spinning out of control while you're looking the other way. Let's keep the game paused while we get this ostrich habitat built.
Habitat gate.
Okay, job number 1 here is to add a habitat gate before we complete the barrier. Every habitat needs a habitat gate. After all, how else would the keepers get in and out? Just make sure it's hooked up to the path so the keepers can
Harus
reach
ada
it.
pintunya ini ya, buat penjaganya masuk keluar. Kalau
Right,
nggak ada
let's
pintunya,
complete the
nggak bisa
perimeter
masuk
barrier
ya.
so we can adopt us some
Itu
ostriches.
kata
I've
Nancy
marked out an
Jones.
area for you to use, so I'd like you to finish
Oh,
off the
ini
perimeter using the brick barrier.
Mungkin ini gamenya dari Zoo Tycoon lebih detail ini.
Good
Ini agak
work.
lebih rumit sih
Remember,
menurut aku.
before you can place animals in
Yang
any
pusing-pusing
habitat,
sendiri.
it has to have a full
Lihat
loop of
tombol-tombolnya.
connected barrier. Now, you've probably noticed that guests can't actually see into this habitat at the moment. At least not without a stepladder.
Jadi
But
kalau
seeing as
tembok
they're
semua nggak
banned,
bisa
I'd
dilihat
like you to
nih.
select a piece
Ini
of
harus
barrier and
tambah
swap out the brick for a glass barrier
glass
so the
barrier,
guests can
jadi
see
ada
in.
glass kaca, tembok kaca ya biar bisa lihat kan.
There we go. Adding in more windows gives guests even more
Baru
opportunities to see the animals in a
bikin itu
habitat.
satu
It's always
kaca
best
aja
to make
udah
sure the guests can
ngobrol
get
di
a
orangnya,
good view
jadi
into a habitat from the path
barriernya
they're
nggak
walking
bisa
on,
diganti.
because it makes them happy. And because
Parah
this would be a
ini
pretty
si Jones.
terrible zoo if they couldn't.
Oke, sekarang donation box.
The
Ini
last thing
buat
we need to do is to add a
ini
donation box.
penonton
You see,
apa
when guests
pengunjung
enjoy the
biar
view of an animal, they'll make a
bisa
donation.
ngasih
Just make
donasi.
sure you put them in easy-to-reach places, like near a viewing point.
sini.
Donation boxes are one of the main sources of income for the zoo, so make sure you remember them.
Oke, I remember them. Dia harus ada itu ya tiap
Now,
exhibitnya
before we
biar
adopt our ostriches, you
orang-orang
should click
ngasih
the
uang.
play button. After all, if the game's paused, then so are our caretakers, which will make it a bit tricky for them to deliver the ostriches, eh? By the way, as well as pausing the game, you can speed the game up by clicking on the fast forward button. It'll run everything at 2 times and 5 times faster. It can be useful, especially if you're waiting for money to accumulate or for animals to be delivered to your habitat. Personally, I use it when I'm waiting for a brew to finish.
Oke,
All right,
kita
you've finished the habitat, so it's
adopt
high time we adopted
ostrich.
those ostriches, don't you think? Let's get 4 of them in here.
Ini bisa order adapt semuanya, terus baru ke animal storage, select all, send to zoo. Oke.
While we wait for them to be collected by the caretakers and brought to the habitat, you should get it ready for them. Add a suitable feeding station, water station, and an appropriate food enrichment item.
Sementara itu
It's often
ostrich
best to place
belum
things like
datang, kita bisa
enrichments and
ngasih
feeding
makanan.
stations near to the habitat perimeter, so guests can get a really good view of the
Jadi
animals.
kalau udah datang sudah ready gitu makanannya, guys.
Oh, good to see the ostriches have somewhere they can
Pokoknya
really
gede
stretch
banget.
their
Ini
legs.
ternyata ostrichnya besar.
They can actually run
Kira
at
kecil.
43 miles per hour? Oh, heaven forbid they ever escape. The speed camera fines alone would bankrupt us.
Ostriches.
Well, Bernie certainly seems impressed. Did you do his speed camera joke? Every time we get an ostrich. So, now we've made the ostriches' lives a bit better, let's do the same for the keepers, shall we? To make it easier for the keepers to feed the ostriches and hippos, we should build a new keeper hut. Keeper huts are where the keepers prepare the food for animals. So they should be placed near to the habitats, to make sure the keepers don't waste their time walking when they should be looking after the animals.
Oke, tambah set buat rotate.
You'll need to rotate the keeper
kebalik.
hut to get it to connect up to the path.
Jadi harus connect sama itu jalannya. Oke. Power the keeper hut. Oke, jadi ada power.
This keeper hut only has space for 1 keeper, but the larger keeper hut can allow multiple keepers to prepare food at the same time. Oh, but bear in mind that keeper huts and other staff facilities shouldn't be placed near to areas where there are lots of guests. Guests don't like seeing facility buildings, and it can affect their happiness
Jadi
negatively. In case that wasn't clear.
tidak suka lihat itu fasilitas petugas.
Something that all facilities, shops, and a whole host of other objects need is power. And that obviously includes your newly built keeper hut. So let's place a transformer next to it, shall we?
Oke, sini.
Now, the reason everything has gone blue is because you're using the power heat map. This map allows you to see what is and what isn't powered in your zoo. So, once you've placed your transformer, you can click in the bottom left to turn the heat map off. Lovely work. Now the keepers can start using the hut to prepare food, and thanks to where you've put it, they won't need to walk very far to deliver it to the ostriches and hippos. Let's get on to your next objective then. Bengal tigers. We want to adopt some, but I'm afraid there's nothing ready for them yet. Head on over to the plot of land I've marked out. It's not too far away.
Oke, sekarang kita bikin
Righty, your next job is to build a habitat from
harimau.
scratch. And concrete and glass, I expect.
Harimau
So go ahead and
Sumatera.
build it. Just make sure that the habitat includes that big hole we've dug. Oh, and don't forget to add a habitat gate to the barrier. Oh, and make sure the guests will be able to see the tigers.
Plus one. Okay.
Now, Bernie takes safety very seriously at his zoos, so we should probably make sure those tigers can't jump out of their habitat, don't you think? The way we'll do it is by changing the height of the habitat's barrier. Okay then, you should start by double-clicking the habitat barrier, which will take you into barrier editing mode. Great. Now highlight the entire perimeter of the habitat. You can do that by clicking and dragging the barrier selection tool.
Jadi ini suruh ini nge-drag. Ini ada panah kiri kanannya. Oke, ini ada tombol naik turun ini.
Now you've got all of the perimeter selected, you can increase the height of it by clicking and dragging the barrier height tool upwards. You'll want to make sure it reaches a height of at least 3.7 meters.
Okay.
Now that the habitat is in place, don't forget to put down a donation box near to your viewing areas. We need every dollar we can get. Especially as these tigers aren't exactly eating instant noodles for lunch.
Bisa, ini yang bisa dikasih highlight ini untuk penempatannya. Oke.
Okay, that's the habitat boundary complete, the habitat gate's in place, and most importantly, the tigers won't be able to jump out of it anymore.
Save dulu, biar nggak hilang. Jaga-jaga mati lampu nih.
I think it's time we adopted those tigers.
Adopt tiger. Send to zoo, satu lagi.
Whilst our trusty caretakers collect and deliver the tigers, let's take a look at preparing the habitat for their arrival. We'll start with the basics. Add a suitable feeding station for them.
Ini untuk feeding station. $500 guys.
Instead of adding a water bowl, let's try something different. Some animals need a pool in their habitat so they can go for a swim, but they can also use it to drink from. All you have to do is make sure the banks of the pool have a gentle slope so they can easily get a nice, refreshing drink.
Jadi ini nanti suruh ngisi air dalam kolam.
You should do that by going into terrain and selecting the water tool.
Okay, terrain mana?
This time, instead of adding a water bowl, let's try something different. Some animals need a pool in their habitat so they can go for a swim, but they can also use it to drink from. All you have to do is make sure the banks of the pool have a gentle slope so they can easily get a nice, refreshing drink. There's already a pool excavated, but you still need to fill it with water. You should do that by going into terrain and selecting the water tool. Yes, that'll do nicely. Of course, just like the warthogs and ostriches, these tigers will also need some enrichment. Why don't you add some suitable toy and food enrichment items into their habitat?
Ini toy mainan lah. Klik set buat rotate.
Okay, it's really starting to take shape. Now, the tigers will need a shelter in their habitat so they can hide from the guests, or more likely, the bad weather. Although, given that we're in England, you might want to think of that just as normal weather. Go on, add a shelter to their habitat. You can either build one from various suitable bits and bobs, or if you like, just pop down the blueprint that I've already built for you.
Jadi ini ada shelter buat rumah-rumah. Ada blueprint yang
Okay, it's really starting to take shape. Now, the tigers will need a shelter in their habitat so they can hide from the guests, or more likely the bad weather. Although given that we're in England, you might want to think of that just as normal weather. Go on, add a shelter to their habitat. You can either build one from various suitable bits and bobs, or if you like, just pop down the blueprint that I've already built for you.
Bisa kalian download di Steamworks. Jadi ada yang bikin cave untuk beruang gitu, macam-macam. Jadi ada yang udah bikin blueprint gitu di Steamworks, bisa kalian download. Oke, ini kebun binatang. Good greenhouse.
Oh, poor Dabs. I'm sure it can't have escaped your attention that the tigers look a bit miffed. That's because they aren't too keen on the type of terrain in their habitat. Select a tiger and bring up its information panel.
Okay,
Rightio. Click on the terrain tab. That way you can view the terrain information and see how they feel about the different types of terrain. That'll tell you what the tigers need more of or less of in this habitat.
Nah, perlu diketahui
Okay then, open the terrain editing tool, select painting, and give them some more soil. Yes, that should help with the habitat part of their welfare.
Jadi paling nggak itu mendekati sampai di white barnya untuk grassnya, soil. Jadi harus sampai di putih-putihnya itu, putih-putih barnya. Oke, jadi seperti itu.
All animals need plants and trees from their own biome or continent. You know, deserts, savannas, or Asia, Europe, that sort of thing. It looks like these tigers need a few more plants in their habitat. To get a perfect fit, use plants from the rainforest and temperate biomes that are native to Asia. Although if you have to, you can get away with using just one or the other. The tigers will also want a certain amount of their habitat to be covered by those plants. To find out which plants to use and how many, select a tiger and go to the Environment tab. Now, as you can see, some of the plants currently in the habitat aren't quite right for the tiger, like the wattle bushes. You can remove them if you want.
Jadi harus sesuai dengan habitatnya.
You can find all of the plants you need in the nature section, and you can use the filters to only show the types of plants you want to see. In this case, that's plants from the rainforest or temperate biomes.
Coba ini. Oh ya, perlu diklik untuk hewannya, jadi kita bisa tahu hewan itu suka enggak sama ini pohon yang kita tanam. Oke, sekarang waktunya milih-milih. Oke, ini pohon besar. Oke. Satu lagi. Masih kurang nih kayaknya. Kasih yang gede satu lagi lah. Oke.
They say that good fences make good neighbors. I guess that's doubly true when one of the neighbors is a Bengal tiger. Still, those tigers look so happy that I doubt they'd leave, even if you did poke a hole in their fence. Oh, but for heaven's sake, don't test that theory.
Right, let's head over to the Indian peafowls. I've been told that we need to improve their social welfare.
Oke, sekarang misi selanjutnya. Jadi ini bukan free bangun-bangun kayak itu ya, bebas bangun. Cuma
Just find one of the
ini ada
peafowls and
skenario-nya,
select them to
tutorial.
open their information panel. Then we can have a good gander at how they're doing. Although technically, I suppose gandering would just be for geese. Expand their social welfare, and we can get a bit more detail.
Oke, social welfare di mana ini?
Now, they've clearly
Hewannya.
got plenty of space, and they're not stressed, but it looks like their social group isn't quite
Social
right.
groupnya
So let's
masih
find out
kurang.
more. Click on the social tab at the top of their information panel to see what's wrong.
Ini di atas ini, tab dari hewannya. Kurang adopt
Right, as you can see,
population.
the peafowls need their population to be larger. To
Okay,
solve this
kita
little problem,
adopt.
you'll need to adopt 3 more female peafowls. Off you pop to the animal market then.
Ini kurang perempuan, guys. Jenis betina. Perempuan ya, manusia. Jadi kurang jenis betina kayak.
Good work on
mau
those peafowls. I expect they'll be
poligami.
delivered soon. But sadly,
Okay.
it sounds like our snow leopard is a bit grumpy. Let's head over there and see what's wrong with her.
Pindah ke ini snow leopard.
Just like people, animals can suffer from stress if things aren't quite right. You know, like when you see someone put in the milk before the tea bag. In the case of these snow leopards, they're a bit stressed by their lack of privacy. You can lower their stress levels by swapping out the normal glass barrier by their cave for one-way glass. It's not a cheap option, but I think they're worth the expense, don't you? This will give the snow leopards somewhere to go when they want to get away from the prying eyes of the guests.
Ini disuruh ganti barrier apa? Kacanya jadi biar nggak kelihatan dari dalam. Side barriers.
Of course, when an animal isn't in its natural biome, it's probably going to be too hot or too cold. Unsurprisingly for the snow leopards, it's too hot. Even with the terrible British weather, you should help cool it down by adding some coolers to their habitat. But let's start by opening up the temperature heat map and having a look-see at the temperature in the leopard's habitat.
Oke, jadi nenek
As you can
Nancy
see,
ini
we already have one cooler in there. Let's pop some more down and
Jadi,
get as much of the habitat
ngobrol
as
terus
chilly as we
neneknya
can.
ini.
Luckily for us, this habitat already has power, but you'll need to make sure of that in the future. Just so you know, if any part of a habitat is powered, then the whole habitat will be powered.
Ini suruh ngasih cooler biar dingin gitu. Karena hewan ini kepanasan, guys. Oke, nunggu waktu biar agak dingin. Misi
You can find heat
selanjutnya
maps for all sorts of helpful things, so
tinggal
do be sure to
ngasih ini
explore them and
terrainnya.
make good use of them. It'll take a little while for the temperature to adjust once you've added coolers or heaters, but now we've got the coolers in, we can address the leopard's terrain welfare. You see, what the leopards really want in here is snow and rock, so let's make that happen.
Oke, ini nggak kelihatan. Sorry. Ini masih bingung tombolnya gitu. Tombolnya masih pencet-pencetnya masih agak rumit. Nih aku mau nyariin lebarnya. Oh ini dia di atas. Ini mau ngekliknya susah. Nah, diklik nggak bisa. Kalau naik diklik nggak bisa nih. Malah kepencet pohonnya nih. Oh ya, malah gue pengen ini biar kelihatan informasi terenya, jadi kebanyakan atau enggak itu kasih putih semua, jadi salju, snow everywhere. Oke. Oke, dalam rumahnya. Nah, akhirnya finish.
Well then, all of that should give you a pretty good understanding of how to make animals happy. So I'd like you to go and check on all the other animals in the zoo and fix up any issues with their habitats. That'll increase the average welfare of the animals across the whole zoo. And that average welfare is a very important statistic. Now, to quickly see how all your animals are doing in the zoo, you should go into zoo management and then into the animals section. Not bad. Not bad at all. I think it's fair to say that you've passed the first part of your training with flying colours. There's still lots more to learn, but we'll have to head to another one of Bernie's zoos for that. If you want to grab your passport, we'll head off, shall we?
Visiting player apaan belum aku cek sih.
Sounds like you've got the whole zoo purring away nicely. Well, purring, grunting, screaming, booming. All the appropriate noises. I guess I was right to hire you, huh? Don't tell her I told you, but Nancy wasn't sure you'd even last the morning. So, we're happy this is working out. And Nancy owes me a Foxy coffee. As strange as it seems, considering we just met, when I look at you, I feel like you're the child I never had. After the one I did have, obviously. But you see, zookeeping's not for my daughter. Don't get me wrong. Emma absolutely loves animals, but she set her sights somewhat higher. Wants to save the entire planet.
Oke.
I'll just settle for saving a couple of species.
Jadi udah
And maybe
selesai misi
having a type
pertama.
of frog named after
Ini
me.
nanti kita ke misi selanjutnya. Thanks for watching guys. We mainin mouse ini mencari balon nih. Oke, sampai jumpa lagi. Guys, save dulu.